Good morning. The last few weeks training haven't been quite on point, unfortunately. My resting pulse has been up by 5 beats, which usually indicates that I'm sickening for something. Haven't had any symptoms other than the training has just been a little bit off, and found it very, very difficult. Bit of a slog actually on some sessions, as if I was starting back afresh, but that's sometimes the way it goes. Rested a little bit, and now when I say rested, did a few easier runs rather than pushing it too hard. Kept the running up, but just a lot easier. Just past some walkers, some early morning walkers. They don't want me breathing all over them, so buff, pop it up. Helps to, if I do come across people, which I rarely do on this trail, which is brilliant. What I learned from my first ultra: have a clear purpose and enjoy the process. Clear purpose isn't just to impress other people, because when you come out to do an ultra, that won't hold you. It needs to be something bigger than that. For me, it was to run in memory of my dad and to raise money for the Alzheimer Society. I also said to some people that I'd run under 16 hours. I didn't do that. Why? Because when I started to do the ultra and I came into the first aid station that family and friends could be, there was more people than I thought. My family were obviously there. I also had other family turned up, which I didn't realise. And the purpose of running 16 hours or sub 16 hours was just not strong enough. Seeing my family was, and which meant I spent a lot more time in the aid stations than I would have done. As for the target for finishing, there was no question. The reason was too big. In memory of my dad, and to raise money for Alzheimer's. If I hadn't have completed it, it would have meant some donations wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have felt that I could have picked up all those donations. I hadn't done what I'd said. So sharing it with others, sharing it with other people, holds you accountable. You need these reasons to build on your armory of completion, because when it gets tough, then it just helps a little. As for the process, running an ultra, there are plenty of things you can focus on which are negative, particularly in training, but enjoy the process. Outdoors, scenes like this, and when you're actually running the ultra, there's such a good community. Draw on that, use that to help you through your first ultra. Use those people, talk to them, they're great people, and enjoy the scenery, enjoy what you're doing. Many people don't have that experience, and when you complete it, wow, you feel different. by drawing on the positives in training, what you're doing is you're training your mind to be able to do that in the race, which helps, because ultra running is a lot about your mental attitude, your mindset, and that's really key. Training that as well, keeping positive, is so important. It doesn't happen all the time. Some days it's really tough, but it's getting out. Once you get out, it feels good. Sometimes not all the time, but you can draw on those experiences and realise it's not forever. You know, a rough patch is never forever. You can always get through those rough patches. I certainly did. Look at this. Lesson number 2. Plan your nutrition both for the ultra and for your training. Now for the ultra, I trained on what type of foods my digestive system could take whilst I was working. I looked at pre-meals, post-meals. I looked at hydration, making sure that I had enough hydration during a run. I even looked at how to take things from my pack so I could eat, and eating on the run. What I didn't do was I didn't pay enough attention to my everyday nutrition. I kept with 3 meals a day, added a little bit of calories for each of those meals, which went far short of what I really needed. Now I'm a 6 foot, well, I started off as a 6 foot guy, 12 stone 9, and I ended up losing nearly a stone, which is not good for a 6 foot guy, and at that weight. Next time, what I have learned is next time I'll place some smaller meals in between my 3 main meals, a bit like a bodybuilder would do, just to keep the calories up, just so that I wasn't losing the amount of calories and the amount of weight that I did, which wasn't good. And I did try to rectify it towards the end, but I found it very difficult to put weight back on whilst I was training. Really important one. Helps with the recovery. Better get back to running. Lesson number 3. Don't feel you have to run ultra distances in training. Coming from a track background, we used to work on a multi-pace type training. So what that meant was we used to run faster than our race pace, and then slower than our race pace, and the distances would be adjusted accordingly. Now with ultra running, I obviously couldn't run more than 100k in training, so I decided to run, oh, it's getting windy, so I decided to run over a marathon in training. I ran 30 miles, and although this was a great morale boost, its benefits in terms of training meant that after the run I had to recover, and it took me a good 2-3 weeks to recover. I obviously wasn't ready for it, so I probably took it just a stage too far. So I would say in future I wouldn't run an ultra in training. What I would do, however, is I would run in future no more than 22 miles, and I'd probably put that with some walking as well. And I came to that conclusion when, on my third challenge to raise money for the Alzheimer Society, and the third challenge was to walk 70 miles in the Welsh hills over 5 days with a group of friends. Now, we weren't able to, because of the weather, the Welsh weather, we wasn't able to cover the mileage walking in the day that we planned to do. So in the evenings I was going out for a run as well, in addition to that. But that training was fantastic. Helped with resilience when you've been out on the hills getting a little bit wet, and then you come home, get into your shorts and t-shirt, and then go out again in the wet. You know, nothing strengthens the mind more. And also being on your feet for a long period of time, but not necessarily running. Great training. Wow. So in the future, the lesson for me would be, I'd run 22 miles, maybe in the morning, and then maybe a long walk in the afternoon. I don't need to run 30 miles all in one hit. Save the legs for the ultra. Now, after my son moved out recently, I got out my old bench and my old weights and thought I'd make my own little COVID gym. Lucky enough to have a little bit of space here. So this is what I'm using at the moment after my runs, which is great. Bit messy still, but I'm working on it. Right, all set up. Lesson number 4, don't just run to prepare for your first ultra. I did lots of long running, lots of time on my feet, lots of tempo runs, lots of interval training, and for recovery, foam rolling and stretching, very important. But one of the things I did neglect was strength training. So difficult to try and get strength training into your training schedule, but it is so essential. In the ultra, I never really got stretched in terms of cardiovascular. What was painful though were my legs. Coming downhill, very, very sore. So in future, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot more strength training. I'm going to add some deadlifts, I'm going to add lots more squats, lunges, all those types of exercises, calf raises, leg curls. You know, preparing your legs in terms of strength is also extremely important. Now, the reason I did all the tempo runs and the interval training was the fact that I was running a marathon as well. But they're all very good to build up on that cardiovascular, but don't forget your strength training. Right, you're going to have to forgive me. I've got 4 sets of 10 on these.